The following program is brought to you in living black and white.
The Jack Paar Program comes to you tonight from Fielding's Music Hall at the Prince Charles Theatre in London. Appearing with Jack will be Miss Judy Garland, Robert Morley, and Randolph Churchill.
And now, here's Jack.
That's very kind of you. That's what I like, that warm British indifference. You know, I think it's very charming. I must admit to you that unlike my show back in the States, I am nervous because I am not known in this country to most of you at all. Look at it this way. I'm an exchange student for Richard Burton, kind of little. And I don't know if it'll help any if I told you that my great-great-grandfather deserted at Valley Forge. That might help us a little bit tonight. But I must say this. It is almost impossible to dislike me because I do nothing. Oh, you do know me then. There was a British critic in our country not long ago, and he wrote, he said, "This is amazing with this Mr. Farr." He says, he has a certain charm, I must admit, but he said, he does absolutely nothing. And then he has the nerve to bring other people on the stage to do nothing with him. And it was most unusual. I was reading one of your papers tonight, one of your TV critics, and he was talking about a new show, which is an American show, which debuted here last night called Bewitched. It's one of our big shows in the States, and it opened here, and he didn't like it. He said he's very tired of the twang of American voices. And I'm sorry if we have a twang. I don't think I have a twang. I sound, I think, rather British. Actually, I'm quite affected, to tell you the truth. And you know, that's one thing about the British. You can kid the British all you want, but it offends the people in Boston. That's a problem we always have. But I don't think I have a twang at all. I mean, I speak as best I can. Now, let me speak about how you speak. First of all, I am an Anglophile. I've always loved the British. I was raised on Clive Brook movies, you know, I had an MG. I wear a coat I can't pronounce, Aquanuda Scudum or something like that. I got one. I got two of them, but I can't pronounce it. However, what I wanted to say was you mumble. I mean, some of you do. Some of you are inclined to, you know, blah, 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 right on, bloody good show, and I never did understand what they're talking about. And you do mumble. I was in the elevator the other day with an Englishman, I assume. He had, you know, the Brawley, and I was standing there, and I don't mean to be indelicate, but my stomach rumbled. And he turned to me and he said, "That's what I like about you Americans. You'll talk to strangers." I feel if I had had indigestion, I could have dominated the conversation. I just do. No, certain of you, you know, certain of you do mumble. I've been thinking, why do you do it? I think it's something to do with the food. Because there never was a country in the world that ate so often. I mean, I'm grateful for instance, the breakfast that you get every morning at 6:30 in the Carlton Tower, whether you order it or not. It's there, you see. First you start with breakfast, which is fruit and porridge, and then some weird thing called kippers. This, friends in America, is a little orange fish with thousands of soft bones. It's like eating a hairbrush that they have. Then you have 11Zs. That's a funny word. That's 11Zs. See, they have tea and cookies or biscuits, whatever they call them. And then at about 1:30 or 2, you have a nice lunch. And I must say, that's what I enjoy. Wine with lunch and brandy and cigar after. You really live very classy here. Some of you do, you know. And then about 4, you knock it off for tea again. And at 6 and 7, it's supper again. All this food. So I don't think you're mumbling. I think you're chewing. That's what I really think is. In my country, we have kind of a block about the British. We, I think, if I'm going to be very frank with you, we like you, I would say on the whole, better than you would like us. It's just a statement that I make. And, but we are intimidated by the words. For instance, we would say England, which is not the correct word, or we're going to Great Britain. That's not a word anymore. Or we're going to go to the British Isles, or the Commonwealth, or the Empire. You know, we don't use the proper term, which our diplomats do, of course, United Kingdom. It does not come easily to us, and our people never say the United Kingdom. Now, we have English secretaries in America, which you must know about. You know, they're calling over there by the thousands. They give the place a little tone on the phone. So this chap called up this new office, and they had a British secretary. He said, Mr. Simpson, he was an American, is Mr. Simpson in? And she said, no, he's not. Haven't you heard? He's gone to the United Kingdom. And the fellow says, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, is it too late to send flowers? I've always enjoyed I've been coming here and doing shows. This is, I think, about the 18th show I've done from London, and yet I've never been seen in your country. I came here and did shows under Mr. Churchill and under Mr. Eden, Mr. Attlee, then Mr. Macmillan, and Mr. Alec Hume, and now, from what I gather, your new government, which is led by Brian Epstein, from what I gathered. Now, about other things about your country. I have seen smoking in my day, and we're even sponsored by a cigarette company. But I have never seen inhaling in my life like the English inhale. You smoke like the communists or the Russians are in Brighton, you know, I mean, when you see smoke curling out from under the pants legs, I feel, you know, it's unnecessary, you see. A man who inhales like that need never get married, you know, it's just unnecessary. But I've never seen such I thought one chap was trying to pull up his socks from the inside. Now, about your television here. When I first started coming, you used to go off like at 10 o'clock at night. You only had the one on BBC then. And now you're on 11:30, 12. I think it's nice. I think you should have stayed on longer always, because we're on till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning in the United States. And I think I don't know who watches it. I think just married people who are staying together for the children. But anyhow, you now are staying on till 11:30 or 12. And I think you should have stayed on before, because it would have maybe kept Lady Chatterley home. Or at least given the Lord something to do on those nights. Now, the other thing I noticed is now you have BBC 1 and 2. Now, I must explain backstage. BBC 1 is the old BBC, and they pay to see it. That's sometimes strange. But anyhow, you pay for the BBC 1, and then the BBC 2 is the new system. And that's more or less very conservative and educational. I saw a show the other night. It was an hour documentary. It was fascinating on how to clean a pith helmet that they had on. Most unusual. I really would get a new set so I wouldn't miss some of those shows on the tube. Now, the ATV, they're more swinging, you know. I mean, BBC, they will, ATV has rock and roll. BBC is still pushing the Lambeth Walk. Have you noticed that they're still pushing it? I think it's kind of interesting, your television. You have good shows. We have a lot of your shows are from our country, and I guess some of you resent that from reading your newspapers. It just breaks me up. Now, here's our problem. Oh, no. This is great. The ATV. There's a guy in the afternoon, and it's so darn informal. I tuned it on late, obviously, caught in the middle of the show. And there's nothing on. There's a desk and there's furniture. And no sound, no music, nothing. Just a desk, nobody there. I thought, well, I must be in the middle, so I'm going to watch. This is fascinating. What could this be? And nothing happens. About 3 minutes later, a guy comes in drying his hands, and he said, now where were we? Now, see, back in my country, we have commercials. We have 6 an hour on this program. And we never do the commercials when we come here. The first year we did. And you know what you do? You sit and laugh, giggle all through this serious work that we're bringing to the world. And so we don't bring commercials here. We just do it without the commercials and then put them in later. We have, I suppose they offend you. For instance, do you ever have a living bra commercial in this country? You wouldn't, would you? Do you know what a living bra is? You call them animated holsters. Is that right, madam? Nor would you sell deodorants, I don't think. The only thing a British gentleman would put under his arm is an umbrella, I would imagine. Everyone here carries an umbrella. You know what I like about what I've noticed as the years have gone by is this. As the years have gone by, I notice among you less and less sense of class consciousness. You are less and less class conscious. They tell me that now a British boy from any walk of life or station or education can buy a brolly. This is the brolly. The bowler, a brolly, wear a regimental tie, and he can go anywhere he wants to, as long as he doesn't open his mouth. I understand. Well, I was only supposed to be charming for 12 minutes, and here it's 14. You'd know how time flies, right? Oh. Well, you see, you'll learn to like me later. Don't worry about it. And now to our English friends in the Prince Charles Theater, here's one of America's great stars, Miss Judy Garland.
Never, never, never will I marry born to wander till I'm dead. No conscience, no care, no burden to bear, no memories to mourn, no turning, 'cause I was born to
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
It'll be nice for folks back in, we'll put this down.
What's that?
I don't know, something from Doc. Well, I could think of a lot of things, you know, like that. There you are, sweetie. How nice. Now, everyone, and we haven't seen you for 7 months.
I know.
And they love you here. They've been good to you, huh?
Huh?
They've been good to you here at the
Oh, they're always marvelous to me.
At the Palladium?
Yeah.
You love the
Oh,
Palladium?
I love the Palladium. I love London.
Well, you should.
I love you, too. Yeah. And I love everyone here. I think they're marvelous.
We had better announce our engagement. No, we better not. I don't think we better do that.
No, it would look bad
I
all
think
the way
so,
around.
yes. People don't like that
Yes.
kind of thing. Tell me, I see, they don't understand how we do the show. We just keep talking with
I
no
know.
script.
It's agony.
See, I should quit, but I can't. I'm a big star, you know. I really should quit. I'll ask you some questions. How does it feel to have lived these years being a legend? How?
Well, it's peculiar. Because if I'm supposed to be a living legend. Is that right?
That's what it
But it's lonesome. Because everybody thinks of you as, the Statue of Liberty or something like that, you know, that doesn't breathe. And so no one calls you on the phone and asks you to dinner or anything. You just I'm sure she's busy. Oh, we must call her. So I just sit by the phone.
Did you go to the Dietrich opening the other night,
Yes,
Marlene?
I did.
What did you think of that?
Well, I thought, well, first of all, I had a terrible thing happen.
Oh. What more terrible thing could happen to you, Judy? I can't think. I mean, what would be the next thing?
No, I'm inclined, or things happen to me, or I bring them about. I don't know. I couldn't care less. But we were in a great big Rolls Royce, you know, drawing up to the front of the theater for Marlene's show. And there was a chauffeur driving the car, and Mark Heron said, "Would you pick us up backstage after the show?" Now, in the meantime, there are all kinds of people lined up along the sidewalk, and I was being, I was just showing off, so So anyway, I was sort of bowing, getting ready to get out of the car. And we got right to the place where we were supposed to get out, and the driver put his foot on the gas, and away we went. I didn't get a chance to get out. He thought that he was supposed to take me backstage. I wasn't in the show. It was Marlene's show. He was very confused. But then we had to go around lots of blocks and all things and come back again in front of the same people and do this.
You know, when Richard Burton, who was absolutely magnificent, one of the greatest moments I've ever known in the theater, the greatest moment, opened in New York in Hamlet, I promised my little daughter, who's 15, I'd take her. And so we rented a limousine, and I got a evening jacket, which I haven't worn since the inauguration of 4 years. And I wore it, and just my daughter and I went. And I said, "Randy, now when we enter the theater, or get on that street, the crowds behind the barriers will wave at your papa, because your papa's well known, and they'll wave. And so what you do is wave back nicely, because if it wasn't for these people, I'd be back in the tire business or something." So we enter 46th Street, and there's enormous, thousands of people behind police barriers. I'm ready to do my little Prince Philip wave, you know. Not only did they not recognize me, one woman, I swear to you, broke out of the police barrier, followed the car all down 46th Street going, I swear.
Oh,
You wonder why I'm a little nervous at times, don't you?
Isn't that strange? Why would you do that?
Well, I gather it's rather it's an opinion.
Maybe it was an affliction of hers. That she-
Maybe. Maybe. You were telling me, was it last night we were talking about Marlena's album? That is
Yes.
a funny story.
I don't mean this harshly. However, I was in Paris with some friends. I was with Noel Coward and Jeanette Spanier and her husband, and we were just sitting around in Jeanette and her husband's sitting room, and in came Marlena, and she'd been doing a tour of oh my goodness, many
Moscow,
countries.
Denmark.
And she came in with a great big record, you know, bigger than a 12-inch. It was about a. And she said, "Oh, darling, hello. How would anybody like to hear my record?" So we all said, "Sure, we'd like to hear your record." What are we going to say? No, we don't want to hear your record. Of course, we'd like to hear your record. There were just 4 of us there. Marlena was 5. So she put the record on, and it was just applause.
She jumped around and showed you the applause.
Well, she'd show me, you know, sometimes the applause would vary. And she'd say, "That's Frankfurt." It'd be like that. And then there'd be great, "Ah!" And that's Berlin. And, you know, but not one note of music. She didn't sing. There was no orchestra, just applause. And Noel turned to me in the middle and said, "I hope there isn't another side to this." And there was.
Your impression of her is funny because Judy was saying that Marlena starts so low, and then the song has to go lower, and you wonder how possibly she could ever make it. Doesn't she on some songs? You know, she starts low.
Marlena isn't one of our better singers, but she looks so marvelous, you know. But I've been looking at her for, well, you know, there's not much difference in our ages anymore. She brings hers down, and I try to retain mine. At any rate, there's this great big overture always. You know, and all you do is sit there and you think, "Oh boy, she's going to come out looking great." And the main thing is that she does. She always looks marvelous. And it takes hours with seamstresses. And so forth. She looks great. And everybody goes, "Oh, my goodness. Oh, isn't she beautiful?" And then she sings a ballad. A sad one. And then it goes to a sadder song. And she always talks about all those songs she did in movies. I think she got a few of mine in there, too.
What are you going to sing now?
Oh, me?
Yeah, sure.
Want me to sing now?
It's either you or me.
I think it better be you after that last note I hit. Do you want me to use this mic? Oh, how darling, you're so talented.
What do I do, get out of here?
I don't know.
What were you planning to do?
Well, I thought that you're, I don't know.
Oh, you see how carefully planned every moment is on this show? This is what made it great. What?
Well, darling, you can't just get up and leave that chair there and everything. I don't think I'm supposed to sing now, am I?
Yes, I would if I were you.
All right. Well, shall we move the furniture?
Well, all right. Well, what are we supposed to do? I haven't seen the master plan.
What now, my love? Now that you've left me, how can I live through another day? Watching my dreams turn into ashes and my
Once I could see, once I could feel. Now I am numb. I've become unreal. I walk the night without a goal. Stripped of my heart, my soul. What now, my love? Now there is nothing, only violence. Goodbye. What now, my love? Now that it's over, I feel the world closing in on me. Here comes the stars tumbling around me. There's the sky where the sea should be. What now, my love? Now that you've gone, I'm free, a fool to go on and on. No one would care. No one would cry if I should live or die. What now, my love? Now there is nothing, only violence.
Of the many things that this particular program that has been running now for 8 years in the United States owes to you would be some of the great conversationalists that we have used from the United Kingdom. The two greatest talkers in the world today, I believe, the wittiest men I know are two. Peter Ustinov, British boy, and your Robert Morley, whom I dearly love and have for many years. He's been on our show in the United States many, many times. He's always a joy to be with. I find him to be absolutely, ad lib, the most amusing man I have ever met in my life. He'll probably bomb here tonight, but that will be unfortunate. Welcome your own Robert Morley.
Unmistakable. It's beautiful, isn't she? Now, yes?
Well, don't let me down now.
Oh, no. Well, of course, I like the build-up very much. It gets better and better every year. I don't know why you drag in Peter Ustinov, but still, I suppose you have to build. You have to build from something, don't you, Jack? Yes. I do see. Well, now. What do we do now? Sing? What do we do now?
No, we're going to just talk.
Talk, yes.
I'll get you to say some of the things that I've heard you say over the last couple of days, and some things I read you said about Americans in conversation.
Yes, the trouble is at my age, I repeat myself so often, and you begin to dread hearing your own stories, but I don't mind, I'll go on tonight. Americans on conversation. Well, when I was younger, you know, the Americans didn't speak at all, and it was heaven for English people, because they could go to America and never draw breath, you know, they could talk all the time, never draw breath. Now, of course, it's quite different. I mean, in those days, you could go from one side of America to the other. All they ever said is they filled up the petrol tanks were yep and nope. And then you could talk to them all, you know, and come away and say what charming people they were, because the secret of a successful conversation is to have one man talking, the other man listening, you know, people. And they were wonderful listeners. That's all changed. Now, some psychiatrists told them they had a blockage, and they must learn to communicate with each other. And I wouldn't mind them communicating with each other, but they communicate now with me, and I can't get a word in edgeways, because they talk all the time. You notice that when they come over here? I love them. I don't want you to think I don't. I love the Americans, but they're very kind to us, and we need them just now, I think. I'm not sure they should have done that to their bank rate. That was really our ploy, but still, it's going to be all right soon. But nowadays, you know, if you talk to an American, he talks to you all the time, and then just as you think, well, all right, now I know what I'm going to say, he says, in other words, and he's back again at the start. So there you are, but you know, but it's very nice to have them anyway. But you never say in other words, you're the most marvelous listener that's ever been, and I don't want it for the money they pay you. I don't want, I'd listen myself, Jack, I really would. Yes, I would.
I was in Cadogan Square a couple of weeks ago, well, last week when we first arrived, and there was a man there looking like Trevor Howard, you know, very attractive with a dog and all. And I did the foolish thing. We Americans do blurt out things. We mean to do the right thing, and we do most of the time. But for no reason, talking to him, he said, good morning, and I said, good morning. And I don't know why. I said, I'm an American. I don't know a reason to say that. And he said, none of us is perfect. And I felt so very foolish.
Well, you were lucky not to be asked your opinion. They're usually television interviewers in the street.
Oh, they ask you Americans' opinion?
Yes, they love it, yes.
I gather this is not a good country to borrow money in at the moment.
From your friends, yes, it's all right. You don't go to the banks anyway. No one goes to the banks. The banks, my father was right about banks. He had a horror and a loathing of banks due to his overdraft always being rather unmanageable. And he always pointed out how wicked the banks were, and indeed they still are. You'll notice the banks in England are always in the center of the town and the best building sites. Quite unnecessary. They should be like the pawnbrokers and the houses of ill fame up the corner of the street. Nobody wants a bank right in the middle. But of course anybody can lend money at whatever they do lend it at now, 7% now, is it, or 8, I don't know, 7. And borrow it at 4. This is the most ludicrous thing. We shouldn't let them have a monopoly of it, you know, but we do in this country. But banking is nothing compared to what it is in America. Do you know, in America you're not allowed to overdraw. I remember when I was young, well, I still am young.
What you don't have?
Yes, that's what we call overdrawing in our country, and we live on our overdrafts. I mean, nobody has the money in the bank for one single moment. But I remember my agent ringing me up and saying, you know, you've got a check in here and you haven't got the funds to meet it. So I said, well, that should worry them. You know, they said it's a criminal offense. And in America, you can hardly believe this, because I never, you know, pay for anything in America, because I don't always go on your program. But it's true to say that if you haven't got the money in the bank, you can't draw the checks. It's like the French. Of course, it's a wicked system, you know. It leaves terrible trouble. In Greece, yeah, you've got to occasionally see the bank manager, but we do run that part of it better. And, of course, we die insolvent, which is the great secret. There's nothing... To me, the great tragedies of the world, Jack, and do watch this a bit, because, you know, you look wonderful now, but, you know, we can't all go on forever. The terrible thing is when a man dies and leaves 100,000, 50,000, 40,000 pounds. I think it's a great, great tragedy of life to leave money. You can't leave it, you shouldn't leave it to your children. It's very bad for them, and you certainly shouldn't leave it to the government or the income tax. I spend right up to the hilt. My children know that. Some of them are here tonight, I'm glad to say. And, you know, it's a great thing not to have any money when you die and owe Barclays Bank or the National or anything a lot of money. And the income tax, too. You want to owe them really a lot of money.
He has the darndest philosophy, because it's enchanting to listen to. But yesterday at lunch, he was telling my daughter that school was sheer nonsense. That it was just ridiculous for her to go to school any further. She's now 15, and she's a very bright young lady. She's here down there, too. But you, at lunch, she's rather taken by you. All women are attracted to you.
You know what it is, yes. Well, I have a lot of trouble right now.
But why would you tell a little girl that she shouldn't go to school anymore?
Well, because it's a great mistake to go to school after you're 12, actually.
Why? Why?
Because schoolmasters are very wicked people, you know. You see, nothing they teach the children is of the slightest value to them in after life. The theory is that if you teach a lot of children a lot of nonsense, afterwards they'll want to learn. This has been absolutely disproved for the last 2,000 years. But when I was at school, for instance, there was a great day when I mastered the theory of the isosceles triangle. I finally could prove that the angles at the base of an isosceles triangle were equal. This was regarded, not only I, but every single child in the class could do this. And this was regarded as a tremendous thing. I've never even seen an isosceles triangle. All that rubbish that goes on, all that rubbish. You know when they say, if you have a room so many yards high and so many feet long, how many bits of paper do you need to cover it? All that. You try and do that with your decorator. You say, well, I've worked it out. We only need 14 rolls. He's out of the house, isn't he? We'll find him somewhere else. You know, and gardeners mowing lawns. That was a lovely time when, you know, we were taught about the gardeners mowing. Well, of course, the gardeners don't want to be told how long it's going to take them. Nor does anybody else in England. That's what I like in England. We do half the work in twice the time, and long may it continue.
You have a one... You know, of all the people in your country that are attacked in your press, and that gets around, everybody gets attacked eventually in this country, it seems.
No.
No one seems to touch you. You seem to be above reproach. Why are you so beloved?
Either above reproach or beneath contempt. I don't know. I suppose I've been a licensed buffoon for so long and said the things that they don't expect you to say, and they no longer publish now. I don't know why. Why should people attack me? Do you think they attack everybody in England? No, I don't think they do.
Well,
they attack my dear Labour government occasionally, but after all, it's good for the Labour government to be
You're
attacked.
very proud
thrive
of
on it.
Labour government.
Yes, I am. I'm a great Labour supporter. In fact, where I live, I was once asked to be the president of the Labour Party there. Then I found out afterwards that the whole thing was a hoax. There wasn't a Labour Party in my village at all. I'd gone about for a week saying, I'm president of the Labour Party. I'm going to start one next year, I think, yes. We may need it, I think. But anyway, we're doing all right. But you see, it's a wonderful thing for us because we've been out of power for, ever so long now. And it's a wonderful thing to get back. We may only be here for a short time, but it's marvellous to do it. And we like Mrs. Wilson in Downing Street and all that. We think it's good for the country and good for us. And, you know, things are going well here. Don't believe all this nonsense you read in the popular press.
Well, I don't know. I think you should have what you want, and this is what you obviously want.
Yeah, and what we need, I may say, too. I mean, it's very funny that for 13 years the Conservatives have ruled the country, and now they say, oh, in 2 weeks you see you've ruined the economy. Well, it's not really very likely, is it?
Then your theories of gambling are interesting. You have a new theory about horse gambling, horse racing.
A new system of backing the winners, which I've done awfully well this year. I've given up the formula. Sometimes in England, people, well, we all do, spend a long time saying, well, he was pulled that day at York, and then the next day he wasn't very well, and the trainer, you know. But I've now found the real way of backing the winners. I go to the paddock, and I see the number of people who've come to talk to the jockey who's riding the horse. Now, it's a curious thing that if the man brings his children and his wife, the horse never wins. He isn't out really for business, you know. But if he brings a rather doubtful-looking girl, and just he and the trainer and the jockey, then the horse usually romps home. And it's really worked frightfully well this year.
It has?
Yes, it has. Yeah, I'm very well up now. Not as well up as those people who did the draws this week. We had a sensational success there. But punters do get back in England. Well, of course, we are very keen on gambling in this country now, just as you're very keen on pornography. It's a new sort of thing.
We are not.
Oh, come.
We are not.
Hardly for me to say anything, but I mean, you know.
I mean, there is pornography there.
What about the new book? I used to buy it in Paris when I was a boy. It was in those little, you know, around the corner where they keep the book. Now it's the bestseller in America. Now it's a satire on pornography and acceptable to the public.
Well, Ruby Keeler. What's your name? Ruby Sneeler. What was that girl's name? Ruby Keeler.
Oh, please don't forget our
Mandy Davis. What was that?
Ah, yes. Well, that's
Rubine Keeler. What was it?
Christine to us.
Christine Keeler. Well, that wasn't a book. That was the real thing there.
Well, that was life. We like a bit.
Well, you like life.
If the Tories lost their heads over that, they could have cashed in on it, you see.
I do.
I'm very glad they did. But, I mean, you had a little trouble, didn't you, the other day in Washington? I'm not going to throw any bricks. You see, you're nervous of vice and we're nervous of sex. It's a different thing, isn't it?
Now, there is an embarrassing and admittedly pornography in the United States. But you have it here. But I think that it's embarrassing. It's very embarrassing.
Oh, nonsense.
I
never did anyone any harm, pornography.
Isn't terrible.
Well, it's quite true. I mean, it's like gambling. It doesn't do you any harm. Some people need it.
You were you don't mean that gambling can clear your complexion. You don't surely mean that, do you? Not at all, of course. Now, why don't we talk about we will now have a commercial word from New York. For 30 years, the name of Randolph Churchill has been associated with the best and liveliest in political journalism, and sometimes the most controversial as well. He has a large and loyal following here in Britain, even though his articles and TV appearances aren't always calculated to win friends. Next spring, Randolph Churchill's recollections of his boyhood with his famous father and beautiful mother will be published in a book called 21. At present, it is being serialized in the Sunday London Times, which I read on my first Sunday here and enjoyed very much. I'm a great admirer of his father. I've met Mr. Churchill only 1 or 2 times non-professionally before. I welcome him. It's a great honor to have him here this evening. Randolph Churchill, ladies and gentlemen. We're delighted to have you here, sir. How are you this evening? All right?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
All right.
I read the first installment of your biography, your autobiography.
Able to wade through it.
Do you think, sir, that being Winston or Churchill's son was a help to you or a hindrance? I heard a person once say that if you had not been Winston Churchill's son, you would undoubtedly be the greatest newspaper man in England.
That's a very loaded question, isn't it? I mean, in the sense, you alter one factor in life, you alter all the factors. I mean, personally, I think that environment is far more important in how a person turns out than his heredity. I think heredity's got a lot to do with it, and it obviously varies from case to case. But I think if I'd been substituted in my cradle to another little boy, and the other little boy had been brought up, and christened Randolph Churchill, brought up as the son of my father, well, poor little beast and boot, I don't know how he'd have turned out. But, I mean, I'm assuming that everybody assumed he was the natural son and heir. But, I mean, you see, of course it cuts both ways, those things. I mean, of course there are immense advantages, and of course there are, to a certain extent, disadvantages. I mean, when I first started sort of barging out on my own in life, well, I mean, if you did anything good, of course they all said, well, of course Winston helped him to do that article or prepare that speech. And of course, if you went and made a bog of it, but then they all looked down their nose and they sort of said, poor Winston, poor Clemmy, think of them having a son like that. You know, well, you get a bit of both. But, I mean, of course, on balance, and I think this is the point to which your question was drifting, or your series of questions and preambles were drifting, all I can say is I'm excessively proud to be the son of Sir Winston Churchill. I've grown up with his... I've grown up with his feet, I've grown up at his table, and I'm afraid I neglected the expensive formal opportunities of education which he provided for me, and really everything I know, I learnt from him. That's about it, Mr. Parr.
Did you, I would say so, did you run for Parliament? How many times did you run?
Oh, about 7 times.
And
I only got in once. There was a time, 1940, when there was no contest because of the wartime truce.
Why did you stop running?
Well, it didn't seem that I could find gathered together in one place a sufficient body of electors who would get me a majority.
Is not being in Parliament, does that
I mean,
hurt you?
hell, I'm not Bobby Kennedy, you know.
You met him once, so you know him.
Oh, I know him very well. He's a great fellow man. I hope to see him in 10 days' time in New York.
What would you like to say? What else would you
I'd like to ask you another question, because you've fascinated me all your life, because although you are a tough working journalist, you have either acquired or really have a very thin skin when people write things about you don't like. I mean, you're, if I may say so, almost as famous for your litigation as you are for everything else. And you won a very sensational victory over one of the newspapers, which called you, I think, a literary hack or political hack or something. Well, now, I thought...
A paid hack.
A paid hack. Well, I thought you...
Articles.
Yes, well, I thought you were a hack. I thought everybody who does that sort of work, like I do it occasionally, so does Jack, we're all hacks. I was interested to know why you perhaps you objected to pay.
Will you solicitor in the house? You'll get a writ on leaving.
Well, I'd like that. I'd like to be very good company. It would be very good for me for publicity, and I'm sure you wouldn't press damages now you're doing so well. I'm only asking why you object to the word paid or hack.
That's all I'll have to deal with your preamble, as I had to try.
We like it. We like it. We like to have a little dignity on the bench, don't we?
Well,
We do.
Well, I mean, all these things starting off, Mr. Morley, with your saying that I was thin-skinned and didn't like being criticized. I show it's absolutely untrue. What I do not like is having lies told about me. I mean, after all, you and I and every gentleman in this country, I mean, 20 times a day we sort of bump into someone in a queue and we kick their ankles. I mean, I'm so sorry, but but newspapers find it almost impossible to apologize. And you have to hire great rafts of lawyers to get them to behave like gentlemen. And most of them are supposed to be noblemen. Tell noblemen, that's all I can say. That's my answer to you, Mr.
Very good, too.
Mr. Churchill, were you ever interested in the theater? I mean this in the kindest way. You're a very dramatic man and handsome man.
Hey, mind whether you're in kind way or unkind way. I mean, the question's enough. I wish you'd keep your questions a bit shorter. And I could then...
Mr. Churchill, I never heard such long answers in my whole life. I don't mind your long answers, but I think it's wrong to turn it to me like I've been talking a lot. I haven't said a word since Judy Garland was out here.
Well, I try to keep my answers short, but the trouble is your questions are so long and so difficult for me to understand.
I don't criticize your answers because I find you interesting.
Well, no, you weren't. You just said they were too long. That's all right. You always cut them, damn it all. I mean, it's all videotaped. I mean, it's money for Jeff. But now, what was the question?
I'll be damned if I know, Mr. Churchill.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't know. First, more than you can remember.
I was
Let's
fascinated.
have another one then.
What was it about? Perhaps somebody in the audience was listening.
Yes.
You never know.
What else, Mr. Morley?
Memories in the audience?
I'm fascinated by a gift that you have of reading aloud. Friends of yours tell me that you read aloud beautifully. I suppose no chance of it tonight, but I would like to know what you read aloud to them.
I prefer reciting aloud, really.
Well, you know it by heart, like Emily Williams.
Well, I've committed a lot of stuff to memory in my youth. Well, there's a rather nice, delicate poem of John Betjeman's, which I think I would care to recite, since the thing's been thrust on me. Trust I can get it right. It's called Death in Leamington, which is a place almost in the centre of England, very near Stratford-on-Avon, which I think is well known to many American citizens. It's about the death of an old lady in Leamington. She died in the upstairs bedroom where the light of the evening star that shone through the plate glass window from over Leamington Spa. Beside her, the lonely crochet lay patiently and unstirred, for the fingers that would have worked it were dead as a spoken word. A nurse came in with the tea things, breast high with the tables and chairs. And tea, she said in a tiny voice. Wake up, it's nearly 5. Oh, chintzy, chintzy cheeriness, half dead and half alive. Do you know the stucco is peeling? Do you know that the heart will stop? From those yellow Italianate arches, do you hear the plaster drop? Nurse looked at the silent bedstead, at the grey, decaying face, as the calm of a Leamington evening drifted into the place. She moved the table of bottles away from the bed to the wall, and tiptoeing gently over the stairs, turned down the gas in the hall. You better clear that little bedroom for copyright.
Yes.
Tune in next week when Jack's guest will be Malcolm Muggeridge, the Muppets, and Oscar Levant. This program was pre-recorded.